Hey guys, my name is Matt Momont. I am a online student. I work in California right now, so you'll probably be watching this while I'm slaving away at a full-time job that some of you may soon have, hopefully. It's sunny out here, so I recommend you come out this way. It's a good software place, if one can imagine. I'm going to have to hop off camera because I can't figure out how to do both this PowerPoint and the camera at the same time. So I just wanted to make sure you guys know I exist and that online students are real people too. We sometimes do the homework as well. Yeah, so I'm going to get started, and hopefully this isn't too boring for the 50% that read the paper, and hopefully I don't lose the rest of you who didn't read the paper. So I'll try to quickly give an overview of what the paper is about, but not spend too much time on that, and then go into how we can expand on some of the methods used in this paper and how we can maybe apply them to other Mechanical Turk tasks that may be useful in some of your projects if you're using crowdsourcing or surveys of other people and are looking for maybe not so much objective data, but maybe subjective data, which is an interesting problem for people to solve. So we're going to talk about that today. All right, so I'm going off camera, and let's give this a shot. So let's go full screen, and all right, awesome. So what the title of this paper was designing incentives for inexpert human raters. All right, and no, I'm not a real expert in this either. So the goal of this paper was to measure the effectiveness of social, so such as motivating people maybe emotionally, and financial, so offering them more money or taking away money based on how they performed on qualitative Mechanical Turk tasks. And no, there are no physical incentives in this one. The task given to the users asked them to analyze a website called kiva.org, a great donation-based website in case you're wondering too. You should all check it out. Users were asked to analyze a couple of objective questions just to verify that the users were real, and then they went on into subjective questions to determine questions like, did the site get money from users in any of the following ways? And you'll see these are sort of subjective in nature. Paid membership, paywall for entry, donations, and also do the sites have avatars of visual representations of identity? While you may think these are objective, like yes, they have a picture of the person on them, I think the leaving them open-ended with other visual representations of identity is open to interpretation by the user and therefore subjective by nature. Before each of these questions, they treated the user with a motivation technique, an incentive. As we talked about, this paper is about incentivizing users and seeing which incentives perform better than others. A couple of these incentives, well, there are 14, but about half of them focused on the social aspect, as I mentioned before, and then the other half focused on financial rewards. So for the social one, an example would be humanization. This humanization is they were there to introduce themselves as Aaron, somebody who wrote the survey and who needs your help, trying to bring the Turker closer to the requester of the work. And then in financial cases, such as promises of future work, maybe the user would be allowed to do more tasks if they did well in this one, and therefore gain more money, maybe higher payment next time around. There are also other financial rewards around punishing users for disagreeing with the majority. There's also some sort of threatening of surveillance, albeit not very threatening, but surveilling the user on how well they perform, saying people will analyze these questions, sort of just trying to make the user think twice about cheating or trying to get the user to do a better job than they would if there's no information presented. And of course they had a control where they only asked the 6 questions without any treatment, social or financial. And the results are actually surprisingly mundane. Most of these treatments, 12 of them, really didn't produce any significant gains in quality of responses. The only 2 that did, you'll see here in this chart, you can see they're pretty flat except for the BTS, which I'll get into more in a second, which is Bayesian truth serum. and then the punishment for agreement, or for disagreement, I'm sorry. These two were the two big ones that actually produced significantly better results. The punishment for disagreement is interesting, and I'll talk about that in a second about why it's interesting. But what it did is it took away money if users got answered differently than the majority. So it didn't take away money necessarily, it took away the bonus the user might receive for answering the questions as like everybody else did. And then the Bayesian truth theorem, this one's a little more complex, and I'm definitely going to go into detail, and I think this one's very useful for some of you, maybe in your surveys that you may be giving out to users as part of your projects. But this one asks users to answer the question and then also predict the average response of other users. And this is very interesting implications on who is an expert and how to weight these responses. But both of these, what the paper suggests is that both of these contexts is forced, both of these treatments forced users to think about what their peers are doing to these questions as well, and that's interesting. When you are presenting these, you don't necessarily want them to just write down the first thing that pops into their head. It helps for the user to think about maybe how other people, other perspectives would look at this question and maybe have a different view of whether the avatar exists on this page or not, or whether this is a visual representation of the user. One interesting thing about this punishment for disagreement, while this one did see significant results, the reward for agreement did not. Okay, why is that interesting? Well, they're the exact same thing. Punishing for disagreeing with the majority is the same as rewarding for agreeing. If you agree with the majority of users, you get the bonus. If you do not agree with the majority of users, you do not get the bonus. And they're just worded differently. So why did the punishment actually see significant gains and improvement in quality when the reward saw minimal to none compared to the baseline? This probably is because users in online communities are typically afraid of being banned, especially in Mechanical Turk. Think about that. If you do a bad job on one task, your reputation goes down. You'll see that, especially on other maybe crowdsourcing sites, like the ones where you can contract out, you can outsource yourself for development labor. Your reputation is very, very important for you getting new work. So if you seem to be like the requester that would punish you for doing a bad job by taking away your bonus, this also you probably are the type of requester who might reject the workers the Turkers submitted work completely, and or even report or ban the worker from future jobs. And this can be very detrimental to online communities. Whereas with the reward, they're losing a couple pennies here and there, but they're really not. It's not a long term. They don't see this as a long term loss for them. So the punishing the users makes it very apparent that you're serious, I guess, about this, about the work. Alright, so now on to the Bayesian truth theorem. This is the one I know you've all been waiting for. As I promised, this won't hurt as bad as the picture looks. And two, this is really important. I think you may enjoy learning about this and applying this to your projects. I found it quite effective, or it seems to be quite effective in this study at producing quality subjective responses. So what is this Bayesian truth theorem? For those of you who want to read more, there's a paper down at the bottom of the slide. You can go read the whole thing. I'll try to summarize it for you so you don't have to bore yourself with the pages and pages of statistics and math, which I got to enjoy over the past few nights. So the goal of the Bayesian truth theorem is to elicit truthful subjective responses by also asking the user to predict the responses of others. Alright, so let's say we have the question, do users of the site have avatars or other visual representations of identity? Remember, we talked about this as a subjective question that was asked of the users. But also, right after this question, we ask what percentage of other respondents said yes. And what this forces them to do is two things. it forces the user to think about what others thought. And we talked about how important it is for users to think about the other users and what they may have answered. And then it also helps us validate if this user has domain knowledge, because by predicting and seeing how accurately they predict others' responses, we'll know if they have a valuable a valuable amount of domain knowledge that may add more value to their response. So let's say, for example, we go back to this avatar question. Let's say the users estimate 30% said yes. 30% of the users said yes, this page, this website has avatars. But actually, when you look at the empirical responses as in all the other ones where you just look at how many people said yes, actually 60% of the people said yes, this website has avatars. I made up these numbers, but this would be a surprisingly common response. Surprisingly common because people didn't think it would be as common as it was. There was a lot of responses that said yes, and people estimated that this would be no. So what you do with these surprisingly common results, which this experiment, I stress, this experiment did not, which I think is a miss on their point, is they could have weighted the answers. But I'm hoping to share this with you so you guys could possibly use this in your experiments with online communities. But these surprisingly common results are typically scored higher because you want to reward the experts who have domain knowledge. So experts who are able to not only say the right answer, that's a commonly surprising answer, but also predict accurately what others are going to say. So let's say I guessed 58% on that last one, and I had said yes. That would be pretty close because remember we had said that 60% of the population had said yes, and I guess 58. So it appears that I have a pretty good estimate of what other users are thinking, and that would show me as someone with some meta knowledge of the group. And another nice thing that this does, and why this may have done better than just the punishment for disagreeing, which did force the users to think about others, but this one allowed users who had a minority view, so users who thought that no, this website didn't have avatars, but thought that everyone else would answer yes, so they were going to answer yes anyways. This allowed them to answer what they thought was the right answer, and therefore be truthful about their subjective opinion, but also allow them to voice their opinion that they actually think most people will say yes, but they're going to say no because that's what they think. So this is going to give you a really good, as in truthful, response. And you'll probably find that you get more truthful responses than you would if you just asked them to, is there an avatar on the site? This gives them an out and a way to express their other opinion about the question. And then I went into, I don't think I have time for this today, but there's a great example here, and I might just run through it quick, and this should show quickly what how the Bayesian truth theorem works, and this guy put together kind of a cool little demo, and maybe you can just see here, so like you'd ask somebody, do you prefer pen over pencil? And I'd say most definitely yes. I'm going to say quite a few people do, so let's see what my score is. The point is I want to see if not only do I answer the correct answer, which is what the majority thinks, I also want to see if how well I estimate what other people think. Oh man, so I'm pretty good at that one. So as you can see, I got 98 points out of the potential 100, so that had a very high ranking score, so maybe they'll consider me an expert on pen versus pencil. So that's it on Bayesian truth theorem, and I appreciate you guys listening to this. I'm sorry it couldn't be more interactive. I know I'm far, far away, but it is a heck of a lot warmer here. So I want to wrap up by reminding you that you can use this Bayesian truth theorem in your own surveys. Would I recommend it for every single one? No, but I think what is really important to take away is that you should think about how to set up your users for the question and whether you want to present the question in the context of what other users are responding. So maybe showing them, like, after they respond to one question, maybe show them the results like I just showed you in this example. Show them the percentage of people who had the same response as you, and maybe that'll not, maybe you don't have to tell them to predict it every time, but you can kind of give them a feel for where they fit into the bigger scheme, and that can give your guys, your users a warm, fuzzy feeling, which is always good. You could also, like this experiment didn't, but could have, and probably should have, used this Bayesian truth serum as a way to score your responses, which is what it is intended to do. So if you want to get serious about it, this would be the way to do it, and to weight answers that are empirically true, so they got the right answer, but they also predicted closely along the lines of what other users would do too. This would be a good indicative of an expert user providing a very truthful and, again, valuable opinion to subjective data. And then back to the other one that worked out pretty well for others, is that punishing instead of rewarding, while it may seem mean, in this case did elicit higher quality responses. So maybe when you're designing your survey, think about being serious, being upfront, saying we want high quality answers, and we are not going to reward you if you do not follow these steps and provide this level of quality and effort put forth when responding. And while it may seem, a little harsh, you're the one putting money forward for them to do work for you. So I don't think anyone's going to fault you for that. All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great afternoon. It's been great talking to you guys. Again, my name is Matt, and I just presented on designing incentives for Inexpert human raters.